Let's bring you some of the latest pictures coming to us from the Syrian capital, Damascus. And this is the presidential palace, which would have been home to Bashar al-Assad, but evidently he's not there anymore. He has fled the country. We don't know to where. And as you can see, people have decided that they're going to go in and have a look and well, potentially take things. I mean, you can see just how many people are in there. We don't know exactly who they are, whether they're the rebels who have taken Damascus or people who are already there and want to have a look. But these are the latest pictures coming to us from Damascus, the Syrian capital. And this is the presidential palace, which would have been the seat of power for Bashar al-Assad. But his family's 54-year rule over Syria looks to now be at an end.
President-elect Trump is weighing in on the unrest in Syria, saying the United States should stay out of it. A rebel insurgence has reached the gates of the capital city of Damascus, forcing the government defenses out of homes. Fox News contributor Dan Hoffman worked at CIA bureaus in the Middle East. He joins us now. The prediction, I guess you would say, from the U.S. State Department, Dan, is that the Assad government in Syria could fall within days. Do you share that belief?
Well, predictions are pretty tricky in the Middle East, except to say that things are going to get worse. I think we can be sure of that. But look, the Assad regime right now controls only those two ports, Latakia, Tartus. So Tartus is where Russia has a naval base, and their capital city of Damascus. So they're back on their heels right now and facing off against an insurgent group that is led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is a terrorist group. And their leader, Mohammed Jalani, of course, was aligned with al-Qaeda and with ISIS before later turning on them.
So is this a case where the enemy of my enemy is not my friend, at least from the United States' point of view?
The enemy of my enemy is probably still my enemy. Look, we've got a lot of concerns about Syria. I'm sure President Trump was voicing his assessment that we shouldn't be sending troops to Syria beyond the roughly 900 we have there targeting terrorists who are a threat to our national security. And I don't think anyone would disagree with him about that. But we do have interest, and I'm sure that the U.S. intelligence community is tracking very closely events in Syria. Look, Syria is risking massive spillover of refugees that could threaten our allies like Jordan. It's been a transit point for material support to Hezbollah in Lebanon. It's Iran's only real ally in the region. And so we have to be tracking all of this very closely, as well as the fact that Syria could become even more of a terrorist state than it already is if some of these insurgents are able to take hold. Then we're going to have some real problem potentially in the region and beyond.
So you seem to be saying that if the Assad government falls, it leaves this power vacuum that could be filled by even worse actors than Bashar al-Assad?
Yeah, as unimaginable perhaps as that might sound. And look, Syria is a bad actor if you look at the fact that the support that they've been able to give Iran and the fact that they're behind the Captagon epidemic, this illegal amphetamine drug. They've earned billions of dollars from that export of Captagon in the region and to Europe. So look, as National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has said, no one's going to shed any tears over Assad falling, if indeed he does. But you're right, the power vacuum could create a situation that is still of grave interest and a grave threat to our national security. It's just a different kind of threat.
And ISIS is still out there and might spring back with Assad gone. What a world. Dan Hoffman. Thanks, Dan.
All right, thanks.
هاي الدوام اللي صاروا بقصر الجمهورية.
بس اطلع مو
كانوا فجر حاله او شيء
رئيس مجلس الوزراء السابق مع جماعة الفيلق الخامس من أهالي حوران متوجها إلى فندق الفور سيزن للاجتماع وتسليم مؤسسات الدولة
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. إدارة العمليات العسكرية.
This is breaking news. The Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad has fallen. Rebel forces are now in control of the Syrian capital of Damascus. We know that this offensive took around just 11 days and was seen as a shock across the Middle East. The regime of Bashar al-Assad and his father had been in power for 54 years before this rebel advance.
We have breaking news. The president of Syria, his plane may have just crashed. Okay, so super quick, the capital of Syria, Damascus, it's just fallen to rebel groups, so the president of Syria has fled the capital and his jet was tracked. Now, according to open source data, it looks like his flight was heading up towards Homs and then there was a little mishap. When you zoom in and analyze, all of a sudden you saw this rapid turn, and I'll show you the 3D graphics. You also had a very rapid descent down to 1,600 feet, and all of a sudden his jet just disappeared on the radar. Now, there's really only two things that could have happened. Number one, a crash. Number two, it could be an emergency landing, which some people would identify as a crash. Nonetheless, again, as I'm making this video, this news is about only 15 minutes old. Everybody's tracking this and everyone doesn't know what's happening. I mean, Damascus has fallen. This is an entire country's capital, has fallen to rebel groups. If this guy is not around anymore, we are about to see a power vacuum happen in Syria. There's going to be a lot of fighting going on.